Hi, everyone, and welcome to Autism Hope Library. I am super, super excited. If you have not seen our next guest before, she's been on our library in the past. You definitely want to make sure to check out her videos. Kathy Darrow is here, and we are going to be talking about just a really important topic, learning coping strategies while at home with your kiddo. So welcome, Kathy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me back for part 2.
Well, I know that, we've known each other for well over a decade, and I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm, and I just think what you're doing to help kiddos is so great. Can we talk a little bit, for those that might have missed part 1, can we talk a little bit about why you're so passionate, and then, really what your specialty is?
So I am so passionate because I have children with autism, and I felt very incompetent when I got that diagnosis. And so I struggled to find what to do to help my child. And when I finally did, which is RDI, Relationship Development Intervention, it changed my whole life. It changed my children's life, my whole family's life. And so I knew that I wanted to dedicate my life to help other families find that same success.
I love that. And how long have you been doing RDI?
I have been doing RDI probably as a parent. I did it for about 5 years, and then as a professional since 2010.
Wow.
So it's a little over 10 years.
It's interesting how our kiddos pick our profession, right?
I know, right? I would have never dreamed that I would be where I'm at today.
I love it. And I mean, you took something and you made it really positive, which I think is just awesome. Well, we're going to talk about something that I think is really, really important for our families out there. We want to talk about, coping strategies and what we can do with our kiddos at home. And when we say kiddos, those are children of all ages. It doesn't matter if they're 2, they're 52. These are strategies that you can implement with any age, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk about your top 3 things that we can incorporate right now for people at home right now. That's something that they can kind of do for some building blocks.
So I would say the top 3 things to incorporate would be changing your communication style. So what I think this is important, because what happens, I know it happened with me, is when we're not getting that feedback loop from our kids, then we start asking them lots of questions. And then, then the more questions we ask them, the more they shy away from us because we're overwhelming them. And so it's not giving them time to think because we're asking them questions, and they can sense that. They can sense, that we're trying to extract information from them, but we have to give them that processing time to really think about what we just said and then to respond to us. And that's what's going to help build their competence. So I would say declarative language is really huge. And there's a lot said about declarative language with RDI because it really is our top thing that we work on at the very beginning. And one of the consultants, one of my dear colleagues, wrote a book about it, and it was just released, I think March. And so your listeners can go on my website, I'll give at the end, and there's a little link that they can click on, and it's an entire book about how to change your communication style to get that relationship building going and to get that feedback that we desperately as parents want. And that's why we're asking questions. Like, the reason we ask questions is because we want to hear from our child, but it kind of has that opposite effect. The more we ask, the more they're like, okay, stop, I've had enough. So when you make comments, and like open-ended comments like, wow, I see, that's really neat, and pausing is really important. It gives your child that sense of, mom just said something, she's waiting for me to think about it and respond. It's different than saying, what do you think about that? That's a performance demand. Yeah. And so then it's very different. It sounds very easy and simplistic, but the two are very different. So that would be totally the first thing that I would suggest. The second thing I would suggest is giving your child a role in every activity. So this is a little different because usually, say for example, you decide you want to make brownies, and I can only speak for me forever, but I was always like, okay, let me teach them how to make brownies. Let me teach them how to be independent. Okay, what do you have to do next? What do you have to get? Like the questions and trying to get them to understand the process. But really what we want to do is help them to understand that they have a role and we have a role. And we can do it together as far as, like, for example, pouring brownie mix into a bowl. I have a spatula, they have a spatula. We're stirring together. I can say, oh, this is getting mixed. And I pause and wait with declarative language. Then they're like, oh yeah, it's getting mixed. Instead of mix it up and we got to pour it in the pan and we got to get it in the oven and we got to get it cooked and then we can eat it and then we can enjoy eating it together. Like, we want to really focus on the whole process from start to finish of the experience. And so the only way to really do that effectively is to say something like, you be the stirrer, I'll be the holder, or, I'll hold the pan while you dump the ingredients in, really defining that role so they understand that co-regulation back and forth. Because again, it sounds simple, but we have to help our kids understand the relationship piece, the framework of a relationship. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing I would say is end successful. So what usually happens with families that I work with is once they start implementing these two things, the declarative language and giving the roles, they start seeing a lot more success with their activities and they get excited. And then they're like, oh, let's keep going. Let's do more. And then the kids all of a sudden are like, yeah, I'm done. And then they walk away. And that's not good, because we want a child to walk away when they're on a high, when they're like, that was great teamwork. Yay, yay. And then, okay, we'll come back later and finish it, sort of thing. Instead of, let's get this all done. And then the child's like, all right, I've had enough. And so they walk away encoding, oh, that was overwhelming. It was too long. We want them walking away encoding, wow, that was fun with mom and I wasn't overwhelmed. I want to come back and do something with her.
Yeah. I love that. And I call that association. Like, I'm always wanting the association to be good. So I remember,
yes,
like, a little different, but when my son was really nervous to go to any type of doctors, what we did was we would just literally drive ahead of time, might even a couple weeks before, drive to the parking lot so we could talk about, like, oh, this is how we get there, and maybe never get out of the car, and then maybe the next time drive and get out of the car and walk to the door, and then maybe one time just walk into the doctor and say, hey, see you next week, so it wasn't this kind of mystery for him, because my thought was I wanted the association to be positive. I didn't want it to be like super scary every single time. And I do the same thing with his activities. So, like, if it's something we're doing for school work, and not always is he super motivated in that, right? And where I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, and I try to be positive. That's like, maybe I really want 10 of these things done, but I get 5. I'll leave on a high note with 5. And maybe I'll next time get 6, or maybe the next time I'll get 7. But
perfect.
That's how I feel, because he's happy then. And then the next time I bring it out, it's not like, and it kind of reminds me, you remember when we were kids, I don't know, maybe my family just did this, but I'm going to guess most families did this, where you would have to eat like your vegetables and then like you would get the dessert, right?
Yes.
And so you'd be like, okay, like you would eat your meat, or if whatever the main dish was, pasta or whatever, and then it would be like, oh, and there's your vegetables, and you'd be like, right? And you'd eat the vegetables, and they'd be like, oh, but if you eat all your vegetables, you'll get dessert, right? And so now it's like your mind is like, well, vegetables are gross because I got to get through that to get to the good thing. And so that association that's the same kind of thing. Like, the association your family gave you over vegetables was, they're gross, you got to eat them, but then you get the good thing, versus saying, oh man, that zucchini is rocking. Look at how yummy. Like, last night we had acorn squash for the first time. I've eaten it, but Jackson hadn't. And I had made it. I wasn't sure, because I'll be honest, I didn't know how to make it until yesterday. I just learned. And so, at first he's looking at it because it's like orange inside, but it's green on the outside. And he's like, what is that? And I said, no, it's squash. And most of the squashes are, different colors. And he's so confused about the orange on the inside and green on the outside. And he's looking at, but he has had the association that vegetables are positive. That's a good thing, because you only know something's bad if somebody at that age or that processing level tells you. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's what you encode. If we all think back, we can think about things that we've encoded in our life that we don't even know about. And then it comes up and we're like, wait, like I have this bad experience or this good experience. Yeah.
I blame all of my PE teachers for me hating to run. I remember being a kid, I was like, oh, take a lap, Selby, go.
There you go. There you go.
I always got in trouble. It's like, I had to go take a lap. Now it's like, I don't like running because I'm going to believe it's the association.
Yeah. And this is important because episodic memory is one of the core deficits of autism. And so our kids with autism can't reflect on their past experiences and bring it to the future. And so you said yourself, you went back into time and thought about your gym teachers and blamed them, for your running, not liking running. But just think, if you honestly couldn't do that, you had no idea why you feel the way you do.
Yeah, and that'd be so difficult. And,
Yes.
That's what our kids often have a hard time expressing or even processing where they all connect, why am I feeling this way? Which then brings me to, their feelings, right? What if a child is having meltdowns and the parent feels lost? Like, where do we go from there? How many of us have, been somewhere, or even just in our own home, where I can talk from my experience. My son could be doing, everything feels great. Like, everything feels happy. And it's not like I have an idea. Like, most times you kind of have an idea if you push them too hard. You kind of know what that boundary is. But there's other times where it's like 0 to 60 like that. And you had, everything was great. And super laughing, super great. Everything was motivating. And then boom. And it could be a meltdown where they're throwing themselves on the ground. It could be a meltdown where they're hitting themselves. It could be a meltdown where they're hitting or biting you, Yeah. And then the parent, you feel lost because you're like, gosh, sweetie, I'm just trying to help you. I don't know. And then that's when you do ask all those questions. I think that's the first thing we start doing, as you said, not to do in the beginning. Where do we go from there? Other than going to the refrigerator for a glass of wine, what do we do?
Right. So as you know, meltdowns are communication. So we can never know exactly the why of everything, because we could have no idea. We can't sit there and think, we try as parents to try to organize the environment so that there will be no meltdowns, but that's not a good thing either, because we want to give our kids some challenge. And so, transitions, or just basically feeling incompetent, or even something that they don't understand, and we think it's so simple, but they don't understand, it can spark a meltdown. So the good thing about RDI is that, and being a consultant, I've been trained to kind of look at development and to see exactly where where the kids kind of fell off of that track. And where do typical children learn this? Where do typical children learn how to regulate? And this is what makes RDI unique. Typical children learn how to regulate through the guiding relationship, through taking on the perspective of their mom or dad or caregiver. There's on YouTube, you can see the virtual cliff, where there's a child who is kind of trying to go. They put them on this virtual cliff simulation, and before the child makes that step, they turn to look at their caregiver. And if the caregiver's then the child's and they start getting upset. But if the caregiver's just smiling, it's okay, then they keep going. Just like when a child falls, and you can either,
and then
that's right. That's right.
So how often is a brand new parent, the first time you do that a few times, you learn to go in silent. You're they fall and you're just saying nothing, and then they get up and you're like, okay, I guess they're okay.
Exactly. So that borrowing perspective is so crucial. And because our kids can't do that, they can't look at us for comfort. So that's so typically that's where the meltdowns come from. So I feel like all the strategies that I'm giving you, and there's tons more too, like, an RDI consultant can give you tons of strategies. They really help with this because you're helping the child not feel so incompetent all the time. You would be amazed on changing your communication, ending successful. What it's doing is it's building up competence for your child, and then they want to come back, and then they want to look at you and reference you for that guidance. And so that really does play a huge part in helping those meltdowns. And then also just meanwhile, it's kind of like it's okay for you to kind of say, I don't know what is wrong. Like, I'm not sure what's wrong, but we'll figure it out together. Like, your child's listening, he can hear you. And so there's nothing wrong with not having all the answers as a parent, honestly, and just know that you're working on it and letting your child hear that you're working on it and that you're there for them. One of the things to help your child to do is to be soothed by you. And so that's one of the objectives in RDI, just to help your child to understand that. Because, let's face it, autism makes us all feel incompetent. It makes us all feel like a failure. It has like a really good way of just making us feel like we don't know what we're doing, and parent and child. So, just helping get that guiding relationship back. Not only does it help us as parents, but it helps your child to know that, look, I can be an apprentice. I can actually, it's not scary when my mom introduces this challenge to me. Mm-hmm. It's not something that I want to like run away from whenever somebody does something new or changes something in my routine. Like, I'm starting to accept the fact that it's okay. Like the small things changing is no big deal.
And so, for families watching right now, when you do have a meltdown, and especially, sometimes, the kids can get aggressive towards themselves or towards an object or towards another person. I know for me, when that's happened in our life, we do our best just to get our son in a safe environment, whatever that is. And there's never a perfect safe environment, just to let everybody know. There just isn't. And like, unless it was a ball pit that you could throw them in, like, I don't know. There's always going to be something. And it also seems like sometimes for me, the sensory part of that. So if it would be something like we had a crash pad, and we still do, but that he could crash on the crash pad, and like he could, I remember at one point even just getting like pillows and like laying on top of him and just giving him that deep pressure. Not all kids love deep pressure, but for us, that's what we found. And then talking to him at that time, like trying to soothe him of like, buddy, it's going to be okay. We're doing this, or,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Just letting them know that you're there for them. You're not going to overload them with language.
Yeah.
Right. You're just going to be, I'm here for you. I just tell parents, just sit down next to them. I'm here when you need me, just so they understand that they can get that regulation from another person. I don't like it. If at all possible, I don't want to just like walk away. I want them to start to understand that you're there for them and that you'll stay with them no matter what.
And I always look to, like, I look at the sensory environment. I look at the overloading of, like, whether it be me, whether it be something else in the environment. I also look at, okay, did they sleep well? Are they tired? Are they on a new medication? Are they constipated? Have they gone to the bathroom? There's all these, are they hungry? There's all these things, because often as an autism parent, at least for me, I remember my early days, it was like everything, it was because it was autism. Oh, it was autism. And it's like the label of autism, but actually they're still kids of any age, right? They're still humans. They still have their normal stuff. And so it's important to kind of look at all of the checkoff list of that. And I love the fact of just letting them know, because anything that they're any of that checkoff list, what you just gave as advice of remaining calm, I like to think of it as the calm in their storm, and to really let them know you're there. it would apply for any of that, whether it be they're constipated, whether it be that
Right.
they have a headache, whatever that is, So I love, love, love that. Now, this one, I know many parents are going to relate to this question. As a parent, we feel like we are supposed to do it all. And I really think as a special needs parent, for some reason, we were given another cape, and I don't know why. This is your cape. And often, you can feel like a failure, and you're afraid to say like, hey, I can't do all this, right? How much therapy is a parent supposed to be doing at home? I mean, we've seen the movies, and I joke about this movie, Bad Moms, right? I think that's a really fun movie. But we've seen that movie where like the perfect moms come and they have, the gluten-free, nut-free, dairy-free cupcakes. Like I try to make them and they all go whoop and flat and like nothing looks pretty. Tastes good, but doesn't look pretty. And like they will literally make everything so perfect. Their hair and makeup is perfect. They already went to yoga 3 times that week, which I've probably been 3 times in 4 years. Like they're like awesome. Okay. Like sometimes there's just moms like that, guys. I'm just going to let you know. I love them to death. I think they're great. However, it can also make us feel like a failure. The other thing is the Facebook and social media, I feel like can really make us feel like failures. And I'm really glad it wasn't really around when my son was younger because,
Yeah.
I think it's great. There's a lot of pros to it, but the cons would be like, you're seeing all these other families saying everything great and wonderful, right? So as a parent, how are we, one, supposed to like help ourselves with that? Like, I suck, when really you don't suck, but like everybody feels that way. So how do we do that? And then how do we know how much therapy, quote unquote, is the gold standard?
Okay. So I think that, there are times that you can go hide in the bathroom. No, I mean, I did, but I'm assuming you want a little more concrete answers than that.
Well, you didn't say you were hiding in the bathroom with a glass of wine. Like that's what I'd be doing.
But I think especially now, I mean, I know that the quarantine is going on now, but that's not always going to be the case. But a lot of times we have to know to lighten it up, So here's the thing. The brain is an experience-based organ, okay? And so we as parents, yes, we feel like a failure because we're putting all this stuff on ourselves. Like you said, looking at Facebook, this person can do this person that can do that. I can't even get out of the bed in the morning and, brush my teeth, So we put all that pressure on ourselves. And so I feel like we need to kind of give ourselves a break and know that, and this was my mantra because I was totally overwhelmed with 4 kids. My mantra was, I know that kids learn from experiences. Yes, school is important, especially like right now, everyone in the world's homeschooling, it seems like. So school is important, but it's static knowledge without the learning base of experience. It's not really going to do a whole lot. So focus on the experiences, laugh with your kids, have fun with your kids, do a little bit of schoolwork, I guess, or do a little bit of things that need to be done. But the majority to cope, I would say just to, be with your kids, to have fun. I think that it's important that we kind of are able to reflect on the situations. Like if I could tell my future self, other than lighten up, everything's going to be okay, I'm doing the best I can, and that's all anyone can do, is kind of, I wish I would have videoed some of the stuff that I was going through as I was going through it, but putting kind of like that positive spin on it, kind of like a lot of things that people do nowadays on Facebook that go viral, like just putting like a positive spin. Hey, like videoing myself in the bathroom. You're like, okay, I'm hiding, If I looked back on that, it'd be funny. And it kind of gives you some comic relief. And we totally need that. We totally need that as parents, And another thing is when you do any sort of fun activity with your child, I would video that activity just for like a minute, just so that you and your child can sit down and watch something successful unfold together. So that will build some of that episodic memories for your child and yourself, so that you can kind of look back on these times and just be like, you know what? It was hard, it was challenging, but hey, we're able to get through those hard things together, sort of thing. And one thing that I really like doing, and this is one of the assignments that I give everybody that I work with, is create mission statements. I don't know, Kristen, if you've ever done that.
No, I
But
remember you saying that
yeah.
before, and I meant to do it. I didn't do it.
Yes, yes. So
I
2
love
years,
that though.
yeah, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years, especially like nowadays, like we're all so consumed with what's been happening the past couple months. If you can just step out of your situation at the moment and think, where do I want to be in 2 years? Where do I want my child to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And it really gives you like clarity on what you need to do and to get there. You know, I did that when I started RDI, and my son, who is now 19, he was 3 when I did it. And to now go back and read what I wrote and what he's doing now, it's amazing. It's amazing and encouraging to see. And so it kind of gives you that clarity, like I said, on steps you need to make, because we can so much get involved in thinking in just the daily like survive mode. And which brings me to like your second question, how much is enough though? Like, we know what we need to do, we know how to get there, sort of thing, but how much is enough? It's not how much, it's the quality of it. And so like all of these strategies, and with RDI we have a very systematic way to break things down. It's not like you have to do therapy 24 hours a day. You know, I have families who do something like a half hour a few times a week, but then as you're doing that, you're becoming more comfortable with all the strategies and everything that we're doing. Your mindset starts to shift. And then it's natural for you. You do it all the time. Like I literally do RDI all the time and I don't even know it. I do it to my husband. I, do it to my other kids, like instead of saying, take the trash out, I'm like, wow, that trash can's really full, so like, so it just becomes embedded in how you talk to people and your mindset. So I know that everybody always says, how much do I have to do? Like, how much is success? It's different for every single family. I have families who have 1 child. I have families who have 5 kids, and every family is unique. And I'm not going to sit there and say, you have to do it an hour every day, for RDI activities and therapy, because that might not work for that family. But something is better than nothing.
I love that. And I think that's important for people to not put so much pressure on themselves. Something that I love about RDI is that it incorporates just in your everyday life. I mean, it doesn't really have to be a therapy. It's really a lifestyle and a different mindset of a way to think. And I think that if people look at those kind of strategies, it makes it easier just to live life. And I love that. And I love what you do. I love like I said earlier, the passion and the enthusiasm behind all that you do to help families. And for how do people find your website? And I know you talked about a book earlier. How do people find that?
Okay, so the book is on my website. The book is just called Declarative Language by Linda Murphy. It's also on Amazon. My website is redefiningasd.com. And I have videos on there. I have the video, the part 1 of this video also on there. So I have lots of resources. I have a questionnaire you can take for your child to find out if RDI would even be a good fit. So there's tons of resources. I would love to hear from anybody
And
that
what
wants to visit.
Absolutely. And you live in New Jersey, and I was going to ask you what your final message was, but before I do that, you work with families all over the world, not just in New Jersey, correct?
I do. I use different platforms, mostly Zoom, and I have families from all over. And it's very successful because a lot of RDI is based on a lot of videoing and then sending that to your consultant, sending that to me, and then I review the video. And so video is so powerful because when you're in an activity, you think it's going one way, but when you're able to watch how it unfolds, you're able to see so much more. and it's not a right or wrong answer. I think I talked about this a little bit in the first time. It's not a right or wrong answer. It's information for next time on how to help your child understand social cues and just how to interact.
I love that. So redefiningASD.com, is that correct?
That's correct.
RedefiningASD.com. You can find more information about Kathy and all of her services, and also that book and extra videos that she had mentioned. And what is your final message that you want people to be left with that are feeling like, oh, I can finally take a breath because Kathy said I can?
Yes, breathe. It will be okay. It will be okay. RDI has a very good program that systematically takes your child through developmental milestones that can get them back on trajectory. It's amazing. I want you to be full of hope, because don't listen to any negative prognosis from people saying what your child cannot do. Your child can do lots of things, and I can't wait to see that unfold.
I love it. And for all of you guys watching, again, that word we say all the time, hope. It's all about hope, Autism Hope Alliance, Library Hope, everything's always, Autism Hope Library, that we always joke at Autism Hope Alliance that hope is our middle name. And it's true. Everything revolves around hope. The foundation is hope. And we say, just never give up. Thank you so much for being here today, Kathy.
Thank you so much.
And thank you guys for watching. Until next time. Bye, guys.